What if I told you that buying a home, the single decision millions of people call the smartest financial move of their lives, could actually cost you $88,000 more than just renting? Not because of a bad market, not because of a bad neighborhood, but because of math that most people never bother to do. Today, we are going to break down the real numbers, buying versus renting. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly which one wins for your financial future. No fluff, no real estate agent bias, just cold, hard math. I am Ron, and welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, we talk about finance, automation, and making your money work smarter, not harder. Hit that like button right now. It truly helps this channel grow. And make sure you subscribe so you never miss a video like this one. Let us get into it. Setting up the two scenarios. All right, let us set the stage. We have two people, same income, same city, same point in life. The only difference? One decides to buy a home and the other decides to keep renting. We are going to follow both of them and track every single dollar. Here is what their situations look like. The buyer purchases a home. The total cost of buying, when you factor in the down payment, closing costs, and all the upfront fees, comes to $88,000 out of pocket on day one. Their monthly payment, including the mortgage, property taxes, homeowner's insurance, and maintenance estimates, runs $2,653 every single month. The renter pays $2,000 per month in rent. That is $653 less per month than the buyer. And because the renter did not spend $88,000 on a down payment and closing costs, they have that money sitting in an investment account, $70,000 invested from day one. Now here is where it gets interesting. The renter also takes that monthly savings, that $653, and invests it every single month alongside the $70,000 they already have working for them. So let us now walk through what actually happens over time, because the numbers will surprise you. Breaking down the buyer's true costs. Let us start with the buyer, because this is where most people underestimate what they are actually paying. $88,000 up front. Let us talk about what is in that number. Typically, a standard home purchase requires a down payment, often between 10 and 20% of the purchase price. On a $400,000 home, that is $40,000 to $80,000 right there. But it does not stop at the down payment. You also have closing costs, which usually run 2 to 5% of the purchase price. That is another $8,000 to $20,000. Add in inspection fees, appraisal fees, moving costs, and immediate repairs or updates most buyers make in the first few months. And $88,000 is a very realistic number for a home in that price range. That money is gone from your liquid assets on day one. It is now tied up in the equity of the home, which means you cannot easily access it. And it is not growing in a diversified investment account. It is sitting in the walls of a house, subject to the real estate market. Now let us talk about the monthly payment of $2,653. Your mortgage payment itself, principal and interest, is the biggest piece. But people forget about the other costs that get stacked on top. Property taxes, depending on where you live, can add $200 to $800 per month or more. Homeowner's insurance adds another one to $200. And then there is the one that catches everyone off guard: maintenance. Financial planners commonly use a rule of thumb. Expect to spend 1% of your home's value per year on maintenance. On a $400,000 home, that is $4,000 per year, or roughly $330 per month. That covers things like a new water heater, roof repairs, plumbing issues, HVAC servicing, and all the little surprises that come with owning a home. When you add all of that up, $2,653 per month, you start to see the full picture. And yes, part of your mortgage payment does go toward building equity. But in the early years of a 30-year mortgage, the vast majority of your payment is interest, not principal. In fact, on a typical loan, it takes well over 15 years before you are paying more in principal than in interest each month. That equity builds much slower than most people realize. Breaking down the renter's true position. Now let us look at the renter. $2,000 per month? That is it. No surprise repairs, no property tax bills, no homeowner's insurance premiums. When something breaks, you call the landlord. Your financial exposure is capped at your monthly rent. But here is the most important part of this entire video. what the renter does with the money they are not spending. First, they take that $70,000, the money they did not spend on a down payment and closing costs, and they invest it in a diversified index fund portfolio, historically averaging somewhere between 7 and 10% annually over the long term. $70,000 has serious compounding power. At 7% annual growth, $70,000 becomes approximately $138,000 in 10 years. In 20 years, it is nearly $270,000. In 30 years, that single initial investment grows to over $530,000 without adding a single additional dollar. But the renter is not just investing the lump sum. They are also investing the monthly savings. $653 per month, every single month, goes into their investment account. Over 30 years at 7% annual return, those monthly contributions alone compound to over $750,000. Add that to the growth on the original $70,000, and the renter's investment portfolio after 30 years is well over $1,200,000 from money that the buyer spent on their home. The buyer's equity. Is it worth it? Now, to be fair, we need to look at what the buyer has after those same 30 years. The buyer owns a home. If we assume modest appreciation, let us say 3% per year, which is roughly in line with historical averages after inflation, a $400,000 home becomes approximately $970,000 after 30 years. That sounds great on the surface, close to $1 million. But wait, we need to subtract the costs. The buyer paid $2,653 per month for 30 years. That is $955,080 in total payments, and that is before accounting for the $88,000 in upfront costs. The total amount of money that left the buyer's pocket over 30 years approaches $1,043,000. So the buyer spent over $1 million and ends up with a home worth about $970,000. The net position is negative, before even factoring in what that money could have done if invested instead. Meanwhile, the renter, who invested the difference, could be sitting on a portfolio worth over $1,200,000 in liquid, accessible, diversified assets. This is the math that the real estate industry does not want you to think too hard about. But what about rent increases? This is the number one counter-argument you will hear, and it is a fair one. Renters face rent increases over time. A fixed mortgage locks in your payment. So does that change the math? Yes, it does narrow the gap, but it does not flip the outcome. Historically, rent increases have averaged around 3 to 4% annually in most markets. That is meaningful. Over 30 years, your $2,000 monthly rent today could become $5,000 to $7,000 per month by year 30. However, and this is critical, your investment returns are also compounding during that entire time. As your rent goes up, so does the value of your portfolio. The compounding growth on your investments tends to outpace the increasing rent burden, especially in the early years when your portfolio is growing fastest. And here is another thing to consider. In high-cost housing markets, rent increases are often offset by the flexibility renters have to move to more affordable areas, take advantage of new tenant pricing, or negotiate lease terms. Buyers are locked in, physically and financially. If your city gets more expensive, you benefit as a buyer. If your city stagnates or declines, you are stuck holding a depreciating asset. The rent increase argument is real, but it does not save the buyer's math. It just makes the renter's path slightly bumpier along the way. What the numbers do not capture. Now, I want to be honest with you here, because I believe in giving you the full picture. This comparison is purely financial. And there are very real, very legitimate reasons to buy a home that have nothing to do with the math. Stability, the ability to renovate and customize your space, a sense of permanence, putting down roots in a community, building a legacy for your family, forcing yourself to save through equity, because for many people, they would spend the monthly savings instead of investing them. That last point is actually one of the most important behavioral arguments for buying. A mortgage is essentially forced savings. If you are someone who struggles to save and invest consistently, The discipline imposed by a monthly mortgage payment and the equity you build over time may produce better real-world results than a theoretically optimal investment plan you never actually execute. The math in this video assumes the renter is disciplined, investing every month, never rating the portfolio, staying consistent for 30 years. That takes serious financial discipline and a solid plan, which is exactly what this channel is about. If you want to learn how to automate your investments so you never have to rely on willpower, check the description below for more resources. But if you are disciplined, or if you are building the systems to become disciplined, the renter's path, by the numbers, tends to come out ahead in most scenarios. When does buying actually win? Let us flip this around. When does buying make more financial sense? First, if you are planning to stay in the home for 10 years or more, the math gets much closer. The longer you hold, the more equity you accumulate, the more the appreciation works in your favor, and the more your fixed mortgage payment looks like a bargain compared to rising rents. Second, if you buy in a market that appreciates significantly faster than average, some markets have delivered 5, 6, 7, even 10% annual appreciation over sustained periods. In those cases, the home itself becomes a powerful investment. Third, if you get a particularly strong deal on the purchase price, buying below market value, locking in a low interest rate, or purchasing in an emerging neighborhood before prices climb can dramatically improve your return. Fourth, if the alternative is not investing the savings. If you are genuinely choosing between a mortgage and spending the money on consumption, buying a home is probably the better financial move. Equity is always better than zero. And fifth, if the emotional and lifestyle value of homeownership is very high to you personally. Financial decisions are not made in a vacuum. If owning a home makes you significantly happier, more stable, and more motivated, that has real value that the numbers do not fully capture. The real takeaway. Here is the bottom line. The conventional wisdom that buying a home is always smarter than renting is not backed by the math when you actually run the full analysis. The buyer in our scenario puts in $88,000 up front and pays $2,653 per month. The renter pays $2,000 per month, invests the $70,000 difference, and invests the $653 monthly savings. Over the long term, the renter who invests consistently can accumulate more wealth than the buyer, even after accounting for the home's appreciation. The key word is consistently. This is not a video telling you never to buy a home. It is a video telling you to do the math yourself for your specific market, your specific timeline, your specific financial habits, and your specific life goals. Do not let culture, family pressure, or a real estate agent's commission drive a decision that could be the biggest financial transaction of your life. Run your numbers, model both scenarios, understand the real cost of each option, and then make the choice that aligns with your goals, financial and personal. So which one wins, buying or renting? The honest answer is, it depends. But the data shows that renting and investing the difference is a genuinely competitive, and in many cases, superior financial strategy. Most people have just never seen it modeled out this clearly. If this video changed the way you think about the rent versus buy debate, do me a favor. Hit that like button. It tells YouTube that this content is valuable, and it helps me reach more people who need to see this math. And if you are not subscribed yet, subscribe right now so you do not miss the next video. I am Ron. I will see you in the next one.